Hello everyone, welcome to the Jewish Week Online. We're here at a really unique kitchen on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And if you like food, like I do, you know, Italian food is something where Jews just love. And we have a really talented Italian chef. Not trained as an Italian chef,
No.
but she has done some fantastic things with Italian food. Tell us a little bit about how you got started.
Thanks, Aaron. I got started by growing up in Venice and spending my summers in Tuscany and always loving food and eating. And since I was a little child, I loved helping my mom in the kitchen. And when she wasn't there, if I was ever sick and I had to stay at home from school, my mom tells me that she would come back, and before she walked into the door, she would see flour on the stairs, because with the help of our maid, I had started making gnocchi or ravioli. That's what I used to do when I wasn't feeling well. I've always had this passion and tried to learn more from my mother, her friends, the other ladies in our community. And then when I moved to the States in '95, I was 26. I shouldn't tell everybody my age, but whatever.
It doesn't matter. Age is just relative. It's fine. It's fine. It's good. It's all good.
I really missed the kind of food that I used to eat at home, and so I started trying to learn even more recipes and calling home and experimenting with different things to try and reproduce as much as I could, even not having access to all the ingredients that I had access to in Italy. And that's the history, and friends have been asking me for recipes and wanted to reproduce what I make for them when I invite them over for Shabbat or holiday meals.
And you've recently been giving different sessions at JCC's.
Yeah, I've been teaching classes, which have been pretty successful. And then right before Pesach this year, I started my own website or blog. It's called Dinner in Venice, and it gives kosher Italian recipes, both Jewish Italian recipes, Jewish in origins, especially for the holidays, which is a whole different and wonderful area of Italian cooking. It's actually so good that in Italy we have this saying which goes, dress like a Turk but eat like a Jew, because Jewish Italian cooking is supposed to be even more delicious than general Italian cooking, if you can believe that. And then I also have recipes which are not necessarily Jewish in origins, but they are kosher because they are adapted to the laws of kashrut, and that represents more Italian cooking in general, both traditional and more like the modern, lighter Italian fare that modern Italian women want to make in their kitchen for their families when they want to cook healthy or quick.
And we're going to do some cooking tonight.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what we're going to cook up.
Well, the first thing that I made sure is that I had ground meat, because my cooking skills are good, but my cutting skills are so bad that they know my name at the ER, and every time I show up, they go, "Oh, which finger?" So I'm not cutting anything in front of the camera. So I decided, that's the main reason, really, that I decided to work on a meatloaf. I'm also going to make a side of vegetables, because vegetables are my favorite food. And I'm like a guru in this sense. I really believe that I should, like, my goal in life is teaching Americans to love vegetables. I think people here don't like vegetables and they go for black and white cookies just because they don't put enough effort into cooking vegetables. Nobody is born liking vegetables. Babies are born, the first food is mother's milk, which is really sweet. So everybody's naturally drawn to sweets. And the way we should learn to like vegetables is by trying to make them as appetizing as possible. And again, my mother is from Tuscany, and I spent a lot of time there. If you go to Tuscany, Tuscans really are pros at working with vegetables and making them all taste so good that you'll never want cake again. I don't know. So I'm making a side of vegetable while I'm making this meatloaf, and I'm using green beans, which were one of the traditional on the vegetables considered Jewish by Italians until the end of the 1800s, together with fennel artichokes, and also maybe the most notorious of all was eggplant. They were considered Jewish in a negative sense. They were considered foods that only the Jews would eat, and this is due to the fact that while these vegetables were consumed already in Arab countries in the Middle Ages and Renaissance, they were not known in Italy. The first ones to bring them were Sephardic Jews who were expelled from southern Italy and Spain. And so when they first arrived, for several centuries, it was only the Jews who would consume them. And the Gentiles used to despise them as vulgar Jewish foods. And I like to say that we really got a revenge against these anti-Semites, because now some of the most famous, signature dishes of general Italian cooking all over the world, some of the most beloved dishes, are based on these very vegetables that the Gentiles would refuse to eat until the end of the 1800s, such as eggplant parmigiana, which is now in every Italian restaurant, elegant or not, all over the world. So green beans is also one of them. I think green beans are, or we're called judías, Jewish in Spanish, and I'm making them in a recipe that includes vinegar. The use of vinegar and lemon in many dishes is still considered a peculiar trait of Italian Jewish cuisine. So this is very interesting, both because in a way I think we developed a taste for this peculiar flavor, just like a lot of Jews from Poland and Hungary put sugar in everything. We kind of put vinegar or lemon in everything, which is probably healthier. And it's also interesting because by adding vinegar to cooked foods and also non-cooked foods, we make them last longer. And so before the advent of refrigeration, of course, this was a big advantage, both for everyday life, and in particular for the Jewish holidays and Shabbat, and for those that traveled, for the merchants, it allowed them to take foods that were not just crackers on the ships with them. This is actually something that Venice in general adopted, not just the Jews, because the Venetian economy was based on international trade. And so we have fish dishes also that are cooked in vinegar, and that I am told could last for a week or over a week without refrigeration, but I'm not trying. So.
I see you have there's a lot of fresh vegetables in here, so it's garlic, and eggs and. Yeah,
and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I talked about the side. The main course that we're gonna make is a meatloaf, but we're making a light meatloaf. So I'm using turkey instead of using beef. But I'm also doing something very Italian about this meatloaf, very Jewish Italian, which is I'm stretching the meat with vegetables. In this case, I'm using spinach because it's something very easy that everybody has or can find. But we Italian Jews also do. They also can add. They add other vegetables. It could be celery or it could be leeks to the meat. And this was done originally because most of the Jews in Italy were poor and they did not have access constantly to large supplies of meat. But a nice side effect happens to be that the meatballs or meatloaves made with vegetables are moister and more delicate. And so it's something that we should still do today. You also lower your intake of saturated fats. And I can promise you that you can manage to make picky eaters.
And I'm a picky eater, so.
But especially children who would refuse vegetables in any other way. You can kind of hide them in the meatloaf, so you make them eat them.
Right.
And that's what we're making tonight.
So it's time to taste the food, which is the most important part. And the question I have for you is, what motivates you to cook?
What motivates me to cook is twofold. I have young children, and I want to try and, feed them in the best, most nutritious possible way. And I miss the type of food that I grew up with. I miss the type of homemade food from scratch, from natural ingredients that I grew up with. And I, cannot find takeouts that serve it, so I have to make it at home.
With vegetables, I never enjoyed eating vegetables before. It just wasn't, everyone has their own connection to food. Vegetables were not that connection, but this is very, and it was just recently that I saw the potential in taste when it comes to vegetables, and cooking this for about 45 minutes, you can taste the flavor and the richness of these vegetables. What's your favorite vegetable to cook?
My favorite vegetables to cook are those vegetables that in Italy for many years for many centuries were eaten only by Jews and despised by non-Jews.
Right.
I think it's an ego thing. So I feel yay, now everybody admits that these are the most delicious vegetables in Italian cuisine. So my favorite vegetables are actually fennel and eggplant.
Oh wow.
And I hope you'll get to taste them the next time you come.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, so now I have the meats, and as a meat connoisseur, I'm excited to I've always cooked with red meat and turkey. Sometimes having the right blend is very important, and here we go. You can taste the flavor. It like pops, and it's like it's very fluffy.
It's fluffy, yeah.
Very fluffy. Was that from
soaking
soaking
the bread in broth. And actually, Gentiles in Italy, people who do not eat kosher, I think they soak the bread in milk. They say so. Actually, it's the soaking in liquid brings out softness. They say that actually the protein in milk makes it even softer. I haven't tasted it, but I think maybe I'll experiment with an unsweetened soy milk in the next few weeks, and I'll let you know.
Sounds exciting.
What the results are.
And where can people learn more about your cooking?
Well, as I mentioned before, I have a website now. It's called dinnerinvenice.com. I also have a Facebook page, Kosher Italian Kitchen, and I'm going on all the social media to try and feel young, so I'm on Twitter as well. My handle on Twitter is also Dinner in Venice.
Great.
So again, Bete Avon, buon appetito.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.